Storytime with Hannah-chan. The Butterfly Who Wanted to Be a Caterpillar. Written and illustrated by Hannah Reed. This is the story of a butterfly who gave up her wings to be a caterpillar again. Once in a garden somewhere, there was a caterpillar called Caitlin. Caitlin the caterpillar loved being a caterpillar, even though the other caterpillars excluded her from their games, and so she felt left out. All they seemed to care about was becoming a butterfly and growing wings and getting to fly around everywhere. It was all they talked about. They all couldn't wait to grow up and perhaps leave the garden and explore new gardens. Apart from Caitlin, Caitlin didn't want to grow up. Caitlin liked being a caterpillar. Sometimes she would play pranks on the birds because she had two big circles on the sides of her head that looked like big round eyes. She would play pranks on the birds by closing her eyes and making them think those were her eyes. Then she would open her eyes and shout, "Boo!" before the birds could eat her, and that scared them away. Caitlin always found this most amusing, but the other caterpillars found her weird. Sometimes she would hide on the underside of a leaf and pop up to freak them out too. And she loved to munch on the leaves. Life was good. But all too soon, the time came for the caterpillars to spin their cocoons so that they could become butterflies. All of the caterpillars were most excited and chatted amongst themselves about how much they couldn't wait to become butterflies. But not Caitlin. Caitlin didn't want to be a butterfly. Caitlin wanted to stay being a caterpillar. "I don't want to be a butterfly," she said sadly. "Why now? Why me? There's still so many things I want to do as a caterpillar. I'm not ready to change into a butterfly." But the other caterpillars scoffed at her. "Why on earth wouldn't you want to be a beautiful butterfly?" they asked, bewildered. They couldn't believe it, and they couldn't get their heads around it. "You'll be pretty and get to fly around everywhere and drink nectar. What's so great about being a stupid little caterpillar?" Of course, they had all been waiting for this day to come since they were little hatchlings, but Caitlin just wasn't ready to grow up. "Why me? Why now?" she asked herself. There were a lot of things she could do as a caterpillar that she wouldn't be able to do as a butterfly. So many places to explore in the garden that she hadn't yet explored, so many places to hide, so many leaves to munch on, so many birds to prank. But that would all be over soon, and her time was running out. By nighttime, all of the other caterpillars had already spun their little cocoons around them in order to metamorphose into butterflies. But Caitlin refused. She decided she could outwit Mother Nature. "I can't turn into a butterfly if I don't spin a cocoon around myself," she proudly declared. That was her plan. That night she was restless and sneaked around the garden, smug and proud of herself for coming up with such a brilliant plan. Her idea was that if she didn't spin herself a cocoon, then she would stay being a caterpillar. And she could crawl around the garden munching on leaves while the others were asleep and so eager to rush into adulthood, while she was refusing to enter metamorphosis and grow up. But eventually, it got so chilly and cold that night that Caitlin started to shiver and her teeth chattered. Even though caterpillars don't have teeth, hers were still chattering. That's how cold it was. It was so cold that she grew teeth and they were chattering. And an owl nearly swooped down and knocked her off her leaf, and her skin suddenly felt so tight around her, as if they were clothes that were 2 sizes too small. Again, she shivered with the cold, and suddenly, sleeping in a cocoon didn't seem like such a bad idea. She looked over at the cocoons of her friends, thinking how warm and comfy they must be in there. So she begrudgingly spun a cocoon around herself like a little tent to keep herself warm, and eventually fell asleep. In the morning, she woke up, unzipped her cocoon tent and stretched, and to her horror, found that she had sprouted wings. Wings of red, yellow, black, and white, with big circles on them that looked like big giant eyes. She had become a butterfly. "Oh no, oh no, oh no, not now," She panicked so much that she fell off the leaf she was on, but remembering she now had wings, managed to propel herself back up. She found she had a fear of heights too. "Why must I be cursed with such a fate?" she cried. "Why, God, why?" The other butterflies were so happy and excited, but not Caitlin. Again, the others were amazed at how she didn't want to be a butterfly. Who wouldn't want to be a pretty butterfly? Not Caitlin. No, she refused to be one of them. She desperately tried to play a prank on a bird, like old time's sake, but she scared the bird away before she could play the prank. And then she flew down in her desperation to another leaf to befriend a bunch of new caterpillars. "Can I be your friend?" she asked, thinking they would be impressed that a pretty butterfly would choose to hang out with them. But they snickered and said, "Shouldn't you be up there flying with your butterfly friends? We're just caterpillars after all, and you're a fully fledged butterfly." But Caitlin sadly shook her head, her antennae droopy, and said, "No, I'm not a butterfly. I'm just a caterpillar with wings. I'd much rather hang out with other caterpillars, not butterflies, as beautiful as they may be. They can be mean, and being a caterpillar is much more fun. So can I be friends with you guys?" She looked up shyly. But the caterpillars laughed and said, "No, you're too big to play with us." That made Caitlin sad, and her antennae drooped down to the ground again. "Besides," said one, whose name was Kevin, "your giant scary wings might get in the way and hurt us." And they crawled away, leaving Caitlin standing there sad and alone. On top of that, the other butterflies had noticed her trying to befriend the group of caterpillars as they were watching from the buddleia bush they were feasting on. "What a weirdo that Caitlin is," said Betty Butterfly. "She thinks she is still a caterpillar, and now she's trying to be friends with caterpillars." "I know," replied Brenda. "She's the same one who said she didn't want to be a butterfly." "Why anyone wouldn't, I don't know," said Barbara. "I think the nectar must have gone to her head. She's a few petals short of a flower, that Caitlin, I must say." "Fancy talking to a bunch of caterpillars and thinking you were one of them. Oh, speaking of flowers, there is another bush over that way, and it smells heavenly. Let's go." And they flew off to suckle on nectar from the bush. And so, Caitlin was shunned by the other butterflies and caterpillars alike, and she had a new nickname now. Cuckoo Caitlin, the caterpillar with wings. Caitlin was now more sad and lonely than ever before. And being rejected by everyone made her hate herself. What was the point of anything? She thought sadly. She didn't want to be a butterfly. She didn't want to fly as she was scared of heights, and she didn't want to drink nectar as she didn't want to get drunk, and she didn't want to leave the garden she'd been born in. She just wanted a simple and fun life that she missed so much. So she decided if she couldn't fit in with the caterpillars as a butterfly, then she would become a caterpillar. "It's not my fault I grew up so soon," she cried to herself. "I never wanted to. Oh, if only I had not made that cocoon and fallen asleep, I could have stayed that way and stayed happy without feeling like such a freak." She looked at her reflection in the pond and despised what she saw. Why must I be cursed with the fate of growing up before I was truly ready? Then she had a terrible idea. If she couldn't fit in with the caterpillars as a butterfly, then she would become one of them. She would give up her wings just to be a caterpillar again. "I hate my wings anyway," she sniffed. "Everyone says they're pretty, but I think they're ugly." She hated them, as they were an unwanted symbol of her cursed fate of growing up. Looking in the pond, she wished, "I wish I didn't have wings." And a tear rolled into the pond, making the water ripple, as her reflection became distorted. She had no use for her wings anyway, as she was afraid of flying, so she had the terrible idea of cutting off her wings to be a caterpillar again. "Who needs them anyway?" she thought. "I don't care about being beautiful if it means I'll be able to have fun and enjoy my life." So she thought about how to do it. Should I bite them off? Oh, but I don't have teeth. I just have this long tongue straw thing now. Should I get a predator to bite them off? Should I snap them in a mousetrap? Should I shut them in a door? Then she had an idea. A rock! So she managed to tie a plant stem onto a rock and then pull it down so it fell on her wings, crushing them underneath, and it hurt. Ow! She screamed in agony. She couldn't get free because her wings were crushed under the rock. She called over someone to help. Someone help me get free! The other butterflies who had been watching tried to help, but they couldn't move the rock because it was too heavy. Just then, a bird flew down and tried to eat her while she was stuck there and bit her wings right off. Ah! She cried in agony as her beautiful wings got sliced off, but she had done it. She quickly crawled into a bush before the bird spotted her. She looked over at her severed wings and smiled, a pained smile. She had finally rid herself of her wings, which were an unwanted burden, and had transitioned down to a caterpillar again. So she made her way back over to the caterpillars. Obviously she crawled instead of flying, so it was a slow journey. They looked at her in horror. What happened to your wings? Asked Kevin. What wings? Asked Caitlin. Don't try to kid us, frowned Kevin. You're that butterfly who tried to play with us last time. Caitlin explained. I gave up my wings so I could be a caterpillar again. You did that on purpose? They couldn't believe how crazy she was. Caitlin desperately continued. I'm not a butterfly anymore, and my wings won't get in the way when we play because I cut them off. So can we be friends now? But the caterpillars just stared and then laughed. No way! You're a freak! Why would you cut off your own wings just to hang out with us? How desperate are you? And they began to crawl away. Hey, wait! Cried Caitlin. I gave up everything, sacrificed my very own wings, to have my childhood back. Can't we at least be friends? The caterpillars thought for a moment. Okay, sighed Kevin. I guess we were pretty mean to you. After cutting off your wings, it must be that important to you. But suddenly, the caterpillars screamed and crawled away and hid. Guys? Asked Caitlin, and she slowly looked behind as a bird swooped down to eat her. She screamed, but because she no longer had wings, she couldn't fly away, and the bird caught her and ate her. The caterpillars and the other butterflies watched as she met her sad fate, and only then did they realize they saw her for what she was, a butterfly without wings, rather than who she was, a caterpillar. The end.